Hello and welcome to Goddess Resurrection. My name is Britta and I am your host. And today's episode is episode number 3 of season 2. And today's subject is vulnerability. Before we dive in, hello, my sweet sisters. Hello, how are you? I hope you are breathing and feeling and turning your energy inward as often as you can, learning to integrate this inner connection to and with your feminine energy into your life, into every moment. So it's not a one or the other. It's really an integration, an opening, an inner expansion of yourself, which will expand your life and your world infinitely. And so from here, quick announcement for those of you who have not yet caught on to that. Goddess Resurrection, the podcast, is now also live on YouTube. Season 2 is the video part, whereas season 1 is still audio, but I am also posting all of the season 1 audios on YouTube as well. So it's a nice and neat order. So from here, let's go ahead and let's get started. I'm so happy to see you here. As we all know that vulnerability is a huge subject. And I think that the most fear that anybody has is about vulnerability when getting into the feminine energy, because when we open into our feminine energy, vulnerability is going to be a given. It's just going to be there. It's going to be there sooner or later. And the key to vulnerability is that to remember it's in layers, right? And so we're going to go deeper and deeper with vulnerability, because when we're in the feminine energy, we're deepening further and further. We're going deeper and deeper within. There is no stop. There is no lid to how deep you can go. You are an ever expansive being. And the more that you are deepening into your feminine energy, the more that you're practicing being within your feminine energy, the more you will open. Your physical senses will open, your brain will open, your heart will open, your energy is going to hold more of your light, because as you open more of your soul light is able to embody, right? That's what goddess embodiment is. It's you embodying your light, you embodying your divinity. And so vulnerability is a key element. It's a key ingredient to this process. If we don't let ourselves feel vulnerable, if we don't let ourselves stay in the discomfort and breathe through it, no matter how challenging, no matter how uncomfortable it is, we're not going to break through to the next deeper level, which will bring in the next level of light frequency. So in order to describe vulnerability a little bit more, I want to talk about what does it really mean when we're feeling vulnerable. It means that we're hitting layers of conditioning that were meant to protect us, layers of patterning that were meant to protect us from feeling or being seen or heard or felt or acknowledged. And so these layers of protection are there because we've had painful experiences, because we've had uncertainty, because we've had pain, sorrow, loss, betrayal, right? So in essence, vulnerability shows up. And vulnerability, by the way, extends into all areas of life. and all the different facets through which we exist. But the feeling of vulnerability, right? It's very hard to even explain. What does it even feel like to be vulnerable? What does vulnerability even do or feel like, right? Because you can't really pinpoint it. But we know what it makes us want to do. It makes us want to run or grasp or bring up the walls, shut down, hold the breath, right? It makes us want to clam up in one way or another. And it's just deeper and deeper and deeper layers of old patterning that was caused by lack, right? Whenever we've experienced pain or sadness or trauma, it was us interpreting, right? The ego projecting meaning into it. So generally, it's my fault that this happened. It was my fault, right? That's the general basis of these protective mechanisms. I wasn't loved properly because I am not lovable enough. I wasn't supported because I'm not worthy of that support. I didn't achieve this in school, or I didn't get voted for that because I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not tall enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough, right? So these underlying patterns and layers of protection mechanism, these threads within our conditioning, we all have, right? We all have them. And so for me, for example, right, doing this here, right, and doing the podcast and whatnot, I move through layers of vulnerability. Like, I've been resisting this. I have been struggling against this for a while, right? Because I listen to it afterwards and I'm like, oh, I should have said that. And I can't believe I forgot to mention this. And I should have elaborated on that. And so, you know, there's all this struggle of feeling vulnerable with stretching myself through this media platform, for example. Right? Because when we're stretching ourselves, when we're wanting to go deeper, when we're wanting to expand, when we're wanting to grow, when we're wanting to become more of our fearless light self, we have to push through the vulnerability. We must. There is no other way. And so again, back to that, yes, vulnerability is probably the most feared part about the feminine energy, because everybody that understands the feminine energy and has gone into the feminine energy and really ravels and lavishes in the benefits of their feminine energy, such as joy for no particular reason, inspiration, centeredness, calm, peace, authentic empowerment, clarity, right? When we're in our feminine energy, we are good and we're feeling great. And all is as it should be. And we're harmonizing within as well as within life and our universal experience, right? So we all get to different levels the benefits of the feminine energy, which of course are ever deepening and ever expanding. But this fear of this vulnerability, this feeling experience of feeling vulnerable, that, oh, that cringing, that, oh no. That is what we have to become very comfortable with. And we need to, in order to become more comfortable with it, understand it. Right. So for me, again, as an example, you know, moving through this stretching of myself and expanding myself, it's really understanding that the moments where I feel vulnerable, It's A, because I haven't done it in this way. It's because it's new and I'm stretching and I'm growing. And also B, because I'm judging myself, right? And that's not feminine energy. Feminine energy doesn't judge. So knowing that when I feed into the discomfort through judgment is when I set myself up for it to begin to feel worse and worse and worse, versus when I can just remind myself, okay, let's just go back into the feminine energy. Let's just come back into center, away from the thoughts, back into the breath, back into grounded connection, giving myself permission to make mistakes, giving myself permission to not have to be perfect, giving myself the affirmation of that I'm doing my best. I'm following my guidance, my inspired action, and I'm letting it flow. And I'm going to get better and better, but it is what it is. There is no such thing as perfection. So Britta, let that go. Right? And so the more that we can give ourselves that grace, the easier it will be to move through these layers of feeling vulnerability, which will trigger that knee-jerk reaction to fight, flight, freeze, right? The easier the process will become, and the deeper and more expansive our growth and light embodiment will be as a result, right? Because remember, vulnerability is inevitable, inevitable. And it can happen in all areas of life. So here, for me, for example, it's this new exploration, this new part of my work and mission. But it can also show up in terms of relationship, right? In all relationships, it could show up in friendships, for example, when the friend, for example, says or does something that hits a nerve, or they don't say or don't do what maybe one has hoped for or expected or anticipated. And so it may trigger this fear of abandonment, or not being good enough, or not worthy enough, or not lovable enough, right? Because at the core of these lack patterns, that when we hit them, that is the feeling of vulnerability. When we're hitting lack, that's in the way of the deepening into our light. And so there's always some kind of self-worth, confidence lacking threat that is causing this vulnerability in the first place. Because if these old lacking conditionings weren't there, then we would easily drop and deepen into the fullness of our light, into the fearlessness, into the courage, into the expression of our fullness. It would be easy. It would be right there, right? It wouldn't even be a thought. And so this is why, whether it's in a friendship relationship or with a partner, right? Like when we deepen in love relationships are a huge trigger for vulnerability. When we deepen in love, in our ability to love, and our capacity to love, our willingness to love, whatever fear is there, whatever memory of not having been loved properly by the parents, by the caretakers, by the first relationship, whatever it may have been, or all of the above. But whatever memory is there from the lack, from the pain, from the disappointment, from the betrayal, that's what's gonna get triggered, right? So again, the deeper we go in love and our willingness to love and our desire to love and be loved, the deeper we're also moving through the layers of patterning of lack conditioning. And so that is going to bring up that fear of what if he, what if she doesn't love me, or doesn't come through, or is it going to hurt me again, or it's not going to work out, right? So this is, again, going to trigger deeper and deeper layers of old memory, old experiences that are a part of our conditioning. And so whether it is in love or in friendship or in work or with children or neighbors or worldly issues, we're all subject to vulnerability at some point or another. And so vulnerability really truly is, like I've said, the ingredient to deepening within our feminine energy, which is the opening into our light, into our vastness of infinite possibilities. And we have to learn and get used to and accept that we must move through these layers of vulnerability. And how do we move through these layers of vulnerability? By not reacting, right? To, okay, how much can you stay? How much can you stay and be with the discomfort? Don't react. Don't think, don't say anything, don't speak, don't run away, don't grasp, don't fight, flight, freeze. If you're catching yourself in the fight, flight, freeze, in the reaction, in the wanting to get away from it, because it's just so deeply ingrained and conditioned into you, me, us, all of us, the more we need to catch ourselves, right? And be in the remembering and the reminding of self that, okay, this is just vulnerability. This is just an old layer. This is just fear. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's painful. I know it makes me want to crawl out of my skin and run away. But it's okay. It's okay for me to stay here. And it's okay for me to tell myself that I'm safe. It feels very uncomfortable. It feels super shitty. But I'm safe. I am safe. And I'm going to make me deepening and me clearing through deeper and deeper layers of lack more important than whatever the outcome of the external attachment will be. Right? Because that's, in the end, it's about you. Right? Your feminine energy is inward. Masculine energy is external. Remember. This is about you deepening within yourself, you being in devotion and commitment to yourself, to your deepening. So it's not about the person. It's not about the outcome of this podcast. It's not about the external in any which way. But it's about me. It's about you. It's about ourselves deepening and making this deepening, making this healing, making this breaking through and breathing through and relaxing through the layers of discomfort, that vulnerability, making that the goal, the ultimate goal, because the deeper we clear and break through and heal through these layers, again, the more we are opening into our light. The more we are opening into our light, the more light we are embodying, the more fearless we become, the more we become the authentic expression of our light selves, of our souls, of our goddess, of our divinity, right? And so this is an important shift in perception to really pivot into the ownership of yourself and your journey, in your deepening and your growth. And yes, it's painful. Yes, growth is painful. And yes, letting yourself Stay in the vulnerability. Don't escape it. Don't take it into the thoughts, into the thinking, into the head, into the reaction in any which way, but to really stay with it is the goal, because that's going to yield more light. And that's what this is all about, right? And so as we then shift the perception from the external back into ourselves, back into our own journey of deepening and growth and light embodiment, we begin to work with it from our light, right? From our light, we do see and we do experience it all as just a normal part of playing human. It's why we've come here. It's why we've embodied. We're not attached to only feeling good. We're not attached to only things going perfectly and right all the time. As the light, we know we're here to work through the hard stuff. As the light, we know we're here to work through and clear and heal through the shadow and the lack and the limitation of the old paradigm. We know, as the light, we know that it's not always going to be easy. And that's just the way it is. And so then on the physical human level, we have to remind ourselves of that and trust that process. That there's a much bigger goal, a much bigger purpose to this vulnerability. And then from this perspective, we can then also see that vulnerability really means self-worth. When we are able to move deeper, breathe through it, stay with and breathe through the discomfort, only to come out on the other side feeling so much more empowered and peaceful and okay with the process. We're growing in our worth, right? Because our light is our worth. Nothing on the external, mind you, remember, can give you your worth. That's all ego. Only you can be your worth. Only you can own your worth and your value and your self-respect. Knowing who you are, knowing what you deserve, only on the inside is that a permanent experience. And so therefore, the more that we are actually willing to let ourselves be seen, the more that we're willing to let ourselves be heard, the more that we're willing to speak our truth and set our boundaries and ask for what it is that we want and ask for what it is that we deserve, so that we're actually vibrating this vibration of what we deserve and who we are from the inside out, the more we're okay with being vulnerable. Right? And vulnerability can be a very sweet, sweet, sweet experience as well. It doesn't have to be always so fight, flight, freeze. It can be just saying, I love you first, right? Or allowing yourself within your goddess energy, right? Within your feminine energy to be in that softness where, you know, you want to lean up against your partner and make them feel your softness. Let them feel your willingness to be in that softness, right? And this is very, very beautiful and very healthy for a well-balanced relationship. Right? Because if you want to be the feminine energy, right, your partner is going to have to be the masculine energy, regardless of gender. Has nothing to do with gender, remember, right? And so, again, vulnerability plays out in different ways in different areas of life. When we are looking at vulnerability in business, it's a slightly different animal. simply because when we're in business and when we're in work and taking action, it's a lot of masculine energy, right? And so to bring in that vulnerability and feminine energy into work, takes a lot of practice, because the ultimate goal is for us to always be in the feminine energy, always be connected to feeling, always be connected to intuition, always be open to receiving the highest guidance from our higher self, from our soul, right? And then to bring it into action, using the masculine energy to manifest that through thoughts, words, actions, right? Which makes for a very healthy and well balanced and also light supported co-creative manifestation process. And so then in terms of a work situation, to feel vulnerable is most likely going to be a more internal process, not necessarily what we always show or reveal to the business partners or the clients, right? Although, depending on which field you're in, it's important to show vulnerability as well. It's important to show honesty and transparency and authenticity in the business world, right? And so this is where, it's up to the individual, right? You don't want to show them like yourself crying on the floor, being a sobbing mess, right? That might not instill all of the confidence in them, right? The clients, but everybody has good days and everybody has bad days, and so again, vulnerability has a time and a place in all aspects of life. Work, business, other parents, friendships. We want to be able to speak what it is that we're feeling. We want to be able to share how we're feeling or what we're envisioning, even if the person we're talking to is closed-minded, right? We have to get into a place where we're allowing ourselves to be authentic. And this is where it ties right back around to that true vulnerability is a sign of a lot of self-worth, a lot of confidence in self, and also the ability to not have to be perfect all the time, the ability to give yourself grace, right? And vulnerability, when we're in that place of authentic, vulnerable honesty, not to the extreme, but nicely centered, nicely balanced. It is a very, very, very attractive energy because it actually oozes strength. It oozes acceptance of self, which is confidence. And as we all know, confidence is the most attractive vibration on earth. That's why in the old paradigm, confidence that was very ego-based was what was running the show, right? The big ego, the big, I can do it all, la, 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 talking the talk, but not walking the walk, right? That old energy did very well, but it was false confidence. Now, as we're moving into the new paradigm of the new earth, really co-creating with the light, for the light, as the light, the authenticity of true confidence is now felt. The vibrations have shifted so much that ego confidence, you can taste, see, smell, read that in a second, right? Whereas that authentic empowerment, that truth, that centered, very clear confidence that comes from a place of vulnerability, that comes from a place of self-observation, that comes from a place of, honest communication, that can also be felt. And that vibration of this authenticity, that always has some vulnerability to it reads as worth, reads as empowerment, reads as the ultimate confidence from which we are now here to work, from which we are now here to manifest from. So I strongly encourage you to practice being vulnerable, however it will manifest in the moment, right? Not every moment is going to be deeply triggering and, wanting for you to run away or grasp or freeze. But there are layers and levels to vulnerability as well. And so the more that we're willing to be with that and feel through that, don't think into it. Breathe and feel. Remember, just be with it. Because when you're being with it, you're opening that thread, you're clearing that energetic thread, you're opening it. This is healing. This is when energy is being transformed, because energy cannot be destroyed. It has to be touched, it has to be shaped, it has to be shifted and transformed, changed. And that's what happens in those moments of vulnerability. When you're not thinking into it, when you're not knee-jerk reacting, but you are allowing yourself to just simply be with the cringing, no matter how uncomfortable it is, you can just, okay, it's okay, I'm safe. Remember to reinforce to your body that you're safe, because depending on what memory is being triggered, how deep trauma may have been manifested in your body, you will need to reinforce to your body. It's okay, we're safe. It's okay, we're safe. We can be right here. Just stay right here. No need to do anything, no need to say anything, no need to speak anything, think anything, react. No. We're good. We're safe. We're just moving through vulnerability. We're just breaking through another layer. We're just transforming old energy patterns. That's all we're doing. That's all. Good job. Right? Talk to yourself. Relate to yourself in this very supportive, communicative way. Your body responds to every single thought and every single word you're speaking. So the more that you are communicating with clarity to yourself and to your body, the more light you will embody so quickly, so fast, right? Really becoming more and more the fullness of your greatness, of your clarity on your mission. Right? Vulnerability goes hand in hand with your worth, goes hand in hand with your soul's purpose and highest timeline for this incarnation. So again, shift your perception on vulnerability repeatedly, over and over again, right? Remind yourself of that. Oh, it doesn't mean something bad is about to happen. No, cancel. It actually means that something good is about to happen, because it's about you, not about the other person, not about the outcome of whichever endeavor, not about the situation. It's about you. Your deepening, your healing, your strengthening, your illumination. That's what it's all about. And that's what you need to keep reminding yourself of over and over again, because again, that's not a part of your old conditioning, not what you were ever taught within the masculine energy, because that was all relating to others. Now you're turning the tables onto yourself with self-love and self-respect and enthusiasm and support that you are now giving to yourself, making this journey, your soul's incarnation, about you and your growth most and foremost, because the deeper you go with yourself, the greater of a gift you will be to this world. Of course, to your family and friends and loved ones. Yes, of course. But remember, this is the vibration that will continue to radiate outward from the inside out. So filling your own cup first, focusing onto yourself, making it about your growth is the number one focus. And then from there, you will naturally and intuitively tend to whoever else is in your life with love and kindness and compassion, because you've given that to yourself. Okay, my gorgeous sisters, as always, thank you for your energy. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your time. And thank you for your light and for focusing on to your deepening self connection. I am sending love and light blessings to you and yours. Hugs and kisses. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Ciao for now.